Eagle.com. P.F. Chang's and AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses in the world. Turning to the best in the business for websites. Go to AmericanEagle.com or call 8777 Web Now 1.
Ah, George Strait. And don't mess with Texas.
KILT FM HD2 Houston. Insider access. Exclusive content. Sports Radio 610. The Texans play here. An Odyssey station.
Check out the BetQL Network. Wagertainment for every fan. Get sports betting tips from the best in the game. Available on the Odyssey app and our sister station 650 The Bet.
Sports Radio 610. Gast.
We coming to H-time. Let's get the work in, man. Let's go.
Great day, great day. Oh, give me some juice, baby. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday to all of you. Nice to be with you. Appreciate you getting up with us. You can check us out on YouTube and Twitch as well if you're not up to speed on that. We are with you till 10 o'clock this morning. I'm Sean Pendergast. He is Seth Payne. Hello, Pope Zaza.
Hello. Okay, so the Chiefs lose last night. They're an AFC team.
You're right into it, man.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm agitated. My phone cover for my microphone is gone. It's missing.
It's been a 2-day saga for you.
And it makes me sound like I'm sitting in the bathroom or something as I'm talking to you, and it makes me angry. So I don't who steals phone covers? Why would you take a phone cover?
That's who. Yeah,
a phone cover, not to mention that's slathered with my germs.
Yours is yellow, your foam cover. You can see all the germs on it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's yellow. I mean, it's dyed yellow to begin with. It's not like gingivitis plaque or anything.
I'm glad. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to imply that you indeed made it yellow, but you can see like this spit fleckle.
It's disgusting.
You can see it on mine too.
Yeah, but somebody just took it.
I know. Somebody who clearly has a Seth Payne fetish. They took it home because it's got all your spit all over it.
They're out to get me. Not to mention everybody else. This was so anyway. Look, the Chiefs blew it last night. They just don't. Their receivers. They're all a bunch of Omer Ashiks. They've dropped more passes than anybody else in the league. And then last night in the rain, you just knew they were gonna drop even more. So they dropped one to the Eagles last night, and that puts the Texans where in the playoffs?
Well, there is what I like to call standings condensation.
I know it doesn't help the Texans surpass the...
No, but this is fun. If you go look...
There's standings condensation.
Condensation. If you look at the standings, the Chiefs were the only team in the AFC going into last night that had 2 losses. Everybody else had 3 or more. So the Chiefs now have 3 losses. So they are 7-3. The Jags are 7-3. The Dolphins are 7-3. The Ravens are 8-3, so they've got a bye week coming up at some point. So those are your 4 division leaders. They've all got 3 losses.
Yeah.
Then sit the Cleveland Browns at the 5 seed at 7-3. And then there are 2 teams, the 6 and 7 seeds, that have 4 losses, the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everybody after that is a 5-loss or more team in the AFC. Now, a lot of things can change in a couple weeks. That's a lot of crunching. It's very crunched. It's very scrunched up right now.
Yeah.
But if you're a Texans fan, and this is how you should be looking at the Texans, considering the streak they're on right now, 6-2 in their last 8, 3 in a row, 2 home games coming up. And going after these 2 home games for your opponents, man. It's getting weird with the quarterbacks for the Texans play coming up here. But you got a very favorable schedule. You got a team that's on a hot streak. Most importantly, you have a quarterback who can go score points seemingly, if he doesn't turn the ball over at will, he can score points at will. You're 1 loss back of all these teams that everybody's touting as Super Bowl contenders right now.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And there's a little bit of an element of controlling your own outcomes here because you still face the Browns, who are 1 game ahead of you.
Correct.
And you face the Jaguars, who are a couple games ahead of you, but first place in the AFC South.
Yep.
So 6-4 right now. If you ended up beating the Jaguars, you're 7-4 with 2 victories over them. And
you'll be at least the 4 seed.
Yeah,
going into the Denver game the following week.
NFC remains stupid, even though it's they've gotten their act together a little bit better in recent years, Sean. But
it's a little top heavy still.
Their current 4th seed is the New Orleans Saints at 5-5.
Yeah,
just by virtue of the NFC South being
one of their losses was 2 this year.
Yeah,
Houston Texans beat them too.
The Texans have actually, unlike the Dolphins, the Texans will beat a winning team here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, they'll beat a playoff team.
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah, good luck with your regular season glory, Miami Dolphins. Just be glad you don't face the winning record Texans. Okay,
damn straight. Damn straight. So you watched way more of this game last night than I did. I went to bed. The Chiefs were up 17-7, and they were firmly in control of this game. Like if they were up 10 and it was if it was like 27-7, both are kind of moving the football. This looked like one of those games like, all right, the Eagles can't get out of first gear, and I wake up this morning and the Eagles win this thing 21-17. So tell me, Seth, what the hell happened?
Well, I mean, a lot of miscues by and credit the Eagles defense, but a lot of miscues by the Chiefs in the second half. I heard Perloff this morning as I was driving in questioning Andy Reid's game management, and I have a hard time with that one just from watching the game. Andy Reid and his offense scored 10 points inside of the 2 minutes remaining in the first half. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say
when it comes to 2 minutes. Old Andy Reid used to be a haphazard mess himself in the 2 minute drill. And then in the second half, more than anything, I guess maybe he's questioning how much they were passing in the second half. But there were Travis Kelce had the ball poked out of his arms. There were multiple bad drops. I don't care how much it was raining. Valdez-Scantling drops an easy touchdown. He Tyler Boyded it in the end zone. Multiple other drops. The Kansas City Chiefs have the most drops in the league. And I thought that Mahomes did enough to maintain that lead. It's just they coughed the ball up. They lost easy opportunities. And the Eagles offense, I don't know. I think people just don't believe in the Eagles offense still somehow. I think that I feel like there's Jalen Hurts skepticism still.
Yeah. No
matter what Jalen Hurts does, there's always skepticism with Jalen Hurts.
That's it. Yeah, so your second-round pick. You don't get the benefit of the doubt, I guess. But so as far as the Texans go in this game last night between the Chiefs and the Eagles, let me ask you this, because there's a good chance the Texans are making the post. Right now, they'll be a wild card team, not the division winner, but that'll change if they beat the Jags on Sunday this week. But chances are they're going to have to go on if they're in the playoffs. There's a good chance they're going to have to go on the road and face a team that right now is ahead of them in the standings. This is a very, very, very different Chiefs team than the Chiefs teams that we're used to. Even last season, with their first season without Tyreek Hill, they were still pretty explosive offensively. They still scored a bunch of points. This season, offensively, this feels like what everybody was expecting the Chiefs to be after they traded Tyreek Hill. It's almost like it happened a year later.
Yeah.
Like there was some sort of, remnant effect of a Chiefs explosive offense from Tyreek being there in 21. 22, they're still good. 23, I mean, they're still, like, Mahomes is in the MVP conversation, but I feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that he gets a lot of respect because he's Mahomes. He's not having a typical Mahomes-type season, but their defense is really, really good. Are you more concerned about a version of the Chiefs like this that can play actual good NFL defense and they still got the threat of Mahomes, or are you more scared of a Chiefs team like the ones they had the last few years where it's been super explosive offensively but kind of janky defensively?
I'd always be more nervous about just the Pat Mahomes peak version of the Chiefs, just because he's proven,
especially at end of games.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say, hey, defense wins championships, then just go ahead and use the Chiefs as the example of it. No, the Chiefs can't rely on their defense. I guess the counterpoint to that would be that there's not necessarily anybody that's all that alarmingly awesome offense. Remember, the Dolphins can't do it versus good teams.
They scored 20 against the Raiders at home this weekend.
Yeah. So, I would honestly, right now, given the way the league is this year, I would say I still like the Chiefs over the Dolphins just because they've got a bona fide defense, and the Dolphins they're good at beating straw men, but they're not good at beating actual football teams. So, I would be more nervous in any given year of the Chiefs, but this year, yeah, they're a more complete football team.
Yeah. Who scares you the most out of the teams ahead of the Texans right now? You got the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Jags, and the Dolphins. Those are the 4-3. And the Browns, I guess, too, are a 3-loss team. Are any of those teams, to me, going to Baltimore is kind of scary. But if you can get a lead on the Ravens, that changes the calculus with them a little bit in a game.
I would say the other thing about Mahomes is that they've got a little bit of that Astros/Patriots playoff savvy. So if it comes to playing on the road, I'm more nervous about playing in Arrowhead than I am playing in Baltimore.
Nick Wright, noted Chiefs fan and former holder of this seat that I'm sitting in right here, actually, he posted something yesterday that was similar to something I had posted about the Astros. If you remember when the Astros making the playoffs this year, it was them versus, other than Tampa Bay, a bunch of teams that had zero playoff experience, like no playoff experience at all. And the Astros had played literally twice as many playoff games the last 7 years as the rest of the field in the AFC. Nick posted something. God, he's got so many Chiefs posts from last night. Here we go. Current playoff field, playoff record in the AFC. So if the season ended today, this is what the playoff field looks like. Pat Mahomes 11-3 in the postseason. Lamar 1-3. Who's the third? Why did Nick just put his name here? Who's the third seed in the AFC? That would be
the Jaguars.
Oh, the Jags. Right, the Jags. Yeah, they're Trevor Lawrence 1-1.
Yeah,
and then everybody else is 0-0. So literally, the rest of the field has played a total of 6 playoff games. Mahomes has won 11 playoff games.
You know, if Nick hadn't run away from Houston and if he had stuck around to watch the Astros reign, then he would know that at some point, like, that doesn't guarantee success.
Yes.
You know, you don't win every single playoffs that you're in.
You do not.
You know, you don't go to the you don't win the. You don't go to the Super Bowl every single year. I guess he knows that about the Chiefs. But, yeah, it's not insurmountable or impossible for those things to change. This year, you know, the Chiefs this year feel a little bit like the Astros this year, where, yeah, you felt the pain. You felt the struggle.
Yeah.
You felt like, oh, okay, yeah, without all of these studs and without record-breaking this and record-breaking that.
Still good.
It's a lot, yeah, but there's more uncertainty about it.
Yeah.
You gotta really fight and scrap and claw for every little thing.
And Tyreek Hill is Brent Strom.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's a common comparison. If you wanted to go to cliches, I guess I would.
Yeah, but Tyreek was the guy who left after he got traded after 2021, same way Brent Strom left. And for a year, the pitching was still really good for the Astros. It was still really explosive for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But now a year later, neither are true. The pitching's okay for the Astros by world champion standards, and this offense is okay for the Chiefs by world champion standards, but just okay.
Mm-hmm.
And okay might not get it done. Didn't get it done for the Astros this year. So there you go. Tyreek Hill is Brent Strom. Take that to the water cooler today, people. You'll sound super smart. All right, Payne and Pendergast with you on a Tuesday. It's a Texans Ticket Tuesday, we should mention. Ben, when are we giving tickets away? 7:23, that segment? The one where we always do? That segment? Okay, cool. So we're giving away some tickets to the Texans and the Jags coming up on Sunday. So stay tuned in the 7 o'clock hour for that. Ton to get to on the show today. We still have one left over from the Cardinals game on Sunday that we did not get to yesterday that I want to make sure we hit. And we will do that next.
Make that 3. presents Payne and Pendergast.
We'll get to the one little crumb left over from the Cardinals, the win over the Cardinals on Sunday. We didn't mention in the open, Des King is back. We'll talk about it more in headlines, but Desmond King is back in our lives, Seth. That was a somewhat controversial cut at cutdown time.
I wasn't happy with it. I think that the thing with Des King you always have to remember is I think he's a hell of a guy, it seems like, and yet at the same time he's also had a couple different either suspensions or benches, like team-imposed stuff,
right,
at various times for either breaking team rules or what have you, and it's never been made a big deal out of. I think that there might be just a little bit more. Sometimes there's awesome dudes, and I will say this without, I'm not talking about Des King specifically in this instance. Sometimes there's awesome guys. I've been on teams where there's an awesome guy, but for whatever reason, he just can't seem to show up on time or whatever.
Glitchiness.
Like different personal life issues or whatever. So there's just, it's felt like that with me with Des King. I have zero clue what it would be or anything other than that. I know there have been multiple instances where he's either been benched or, left home from a road trip or whatever. Well, at the same time, when he's there, I think people love him and people like him. So I don't know. I think there might just be a little bit of a disconnect somehow.
Yeah, they signed him to the practice squad, the Texans did yesterday. Obviously, he knows the defense. He was here in training camp. And I would say, look, I'll just say two things, and then we'll move on. You can never have too many cornerbacks.
Yeah.
And two, he's too good a player to be on the street. He's out there, pick him up, put him on the practice squad.
And if you think about last week, what they did is as I suspected they might do because they were down linebackers. They've got so many banged up linebackers. Texans just stayed in nickel, 5 defensive backs the whole game, including on there. They had Tavier Thomas come down and play linebacker. And if you're going to do that, then and if you're down a slot corner, then they probably figured, you know what, Des King's out there, let's bring him in. We need more defense. If we're going to be using a defensive back at linebacker, and maybe they liked what they saw and did, that even when the linebackers are healthy, they want to be able to do that more. It helps if you have a Des King back in there.
First drive of the game, the Cardinals went 3 plays, 75 yards. They made it look easy. That's a couple games in a row now where the opposing team has scored on their opening drive on an over-the-top play.
I look at that. My half full assessment of that is the Texans. They can take a punch and react. And
respond. Agree, actually. Yeah. I think that's a perfectly good point. Here's what it sounded like. It was Rondale Moore on the touchdown.
Murray in the gun, gets the snap. A lot of time for Murray. Now heaves it long downfield and caught. Touchdown, Rondale Moore. 47-yard strike from Kyler Murray, and the Cardinals score first.
Yeah, that was Kyler announcing his presence with authority. Now, we remember on the video, this is something we have made fun of incessantly. Jonathan Gannon making his way around the building.
Yeah.
Talking to all the various players. Kyler Murray, some guys in the weight room, walks up to Rondale Moore, wide receiver, and this is what it sounded like. Do we have the long version of it, Ben? Where he walks up to him, and it sounds super awkward, and then he does funeral. That was Rondale Moore.
That was right after he'd taken the job, had the press conference, and met him.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Good. Shots. Explosives. You can run.
That was the first 5 seconds of him meeting Rondale Moore.
I like him.
That was the first 5 seconds. We got Gannoned on the very first drive. We got hit with a shot to Rondale Moore. That's why I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah. No, you know what? Honestly, when I read that in your notes, in my mind it was. You were talking about Rich Gannon. I thought Rich Gannon maybe was the color commentator on this game, and he commented on it. Because when I went back, I want to say, I don't know who the color commentator was. It's not coming to me. But they kind of mentioned it. They did kind of mention that
Tom McCarthy. Was it James Lofton on the game?
Oh, it was no, but no. It was James Lofton and Jay Feely.
Oh, right.
I think they said, okay, James Lofton, you're getting up there in years, and we need somebody that's. And Jay Feely, the former kicker, you can tell he's been doing his homework.
He's pretty good.
Like he broke down some. Well, yeah, and he actually was doing more like video breakdowns of coverages and stuff. So I think Jay Feely made a mention about it. It was like,
yeah, man.
He had mentioned that he wanted to get some explosive plays to Rondale Moore.
Both my sons text me like, I can't believe we got fumed.
Yeah.
By that guy that he was saying it to.
This is what happens because, the fact that D'Amico tries not to pay attention to what the media is saying, this is the downfall of that.
Yeah.
If D'Amico had actually been paying attention this offseason, he would have known that they were trying to get some shooms, but instead, no, he gets caught flat-footed.
Flat-footed, man. Yeah, we got fume. I was thinking about the Cardinals yesterday because you and I don't get much of a chance on Monday to hit the college stuff because we're only on for a couple hours, so we're heavy, especially when they win, heavy on the Texans. Caleb Williams was a big story this weekend, and Caleb Williams, I mean, look, there's ties to the team the Texans played this weekend in the Arizona Cardinals. It's widely believed the Cardinals are going to have a very high pick. As of right now, they're on track to do that. Kyler Murray might prevent that. Kyler is not peak Kyler, but he's good enough to win a few games, Kyler. He's already won one, and he almost won a second one. So he's almost 2-0 right now in his comeback here. The other thought was, we're going to have the Texans pick too. So if we don't have the first pick, we'll at least have the ammo to move up and get the first pick possibly. So much for that. The Texans pick, if C.J. Stroud stays upright, is going to be in the 20s somewhere because the Texans are going to make the playoffs. But I think and it's not just the Cardinals, like it's the Bears. There's a handful of teams, the Giants probably, who as soon as either coming into the season or as their season started sliding into the toilet, we're like, all right, well, at least we're in the running for Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks ago, Caleb Williams jumps into the stands to sob into his mommy's shoulder. And then they lose to UCLA in a blowout, and he elects, these are the words of the SID folks at USC, he elected not to do media after
Oh, that's
the
right.
game.
Yeah.
Which is not a good look for a future NFL franchise quarterback.
I'm trying to be honest with myself about the whole leaping into his mommy's arms things. It's such a bad visual.
Self-awareness.
Nobody wants to acknowledge this is accused of being sizists when they would talk about Bryce Young. I feel like it came from a good place where people thought, okay, look, I don't want to be looked at as some kind of bigot that's anti-tiny quarterbacks or something, so I'm going to act like it doesn't matter at all. Now I'll act like it's not a single concern in the world about the fact that he'd be the tiniest quarterback in the last 50 years to go in the first round. So there's that. I think with Caleb Williams, there's a little bit of people can't figure out like where the sensitivity training stops. Because, by all means, if you're talking about high school kids, you're talking about, your average college student or whatever, treat people with a little bit of tenderness and empathy. When it comes to potential number one overall pick in the NFL draft, screw that. Like, what are we really talking about here? I see so many people say, well, people must forget what they were like at 22 and what their expectations. Okay, listen to the thing about 22-year-olds. There are 2.3 million 22-year-old males in America right now. Exactly one of them will be drafted number one overall in the NFL draft. Let's not use your average 22-year-old as the yardstick for what should and shouldn't be accepted. Well, 2.2 million 22-year-olds would act this way or that way.
Right.
So that's exactly what we should expect out of the guy that's going to get $40 million guaranteed. 40 million guaranteed.
Yep.
Like, clearly, aren't all these other 22-year-olds that are smelling their own farts at frat parties, aren't they? Aren't 40 million?
Show me the NFL big board of scouting reports for quarterbacks where it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, some random engineering major, a barista at Starbucks. It's just a whole bunch of random. Let's rank all 2.3 million 22-year-olds.
Guy that lost his lift permit to be a Lyft driver.
Right, exactly.
Various incarcerated individuals, like anybody, every 22-year-old in the world. That's the yardstick for how you should measure your number.
If you were a GM with these last 2 weeks of Caleb Williams, not forget about on the field. The two things I just cited. Crying into his mommy's shoulder, and electing not to do media, if you had the first pick in the draft, would that scare you off of Caleb Williams?
It wouldn't scare me off of him. I think it's one of those things where there's negatives for every single prospect. So it's something that you have to take into consideration. Just because I'll bring up Ryan Leaf. Okay, let's remember Ryan Leaf and just how fragile he was when it came to dealing with criticism or anything like that. You are under so much scrutiny. And for any other player, like a non-quarterback, I would say, okay, I didn't want to talk to the media, whatever. Like, okay, he doesn't like the media, you know? With quarterbacks, it's you're looking for all these little signs of like, okay, how does he actually handle like the pressure from all fronts?
Hell yeah,
it's the one position on the field where I think the off-field stuff matters the most. And it also, remember, we went through our little exercise where we looked at like, okay, guys who have off-field judgment issues, those tend to, at quarterback, tend to transfer over to, it's like, awesome, he's got off-field issues. This guy's got some fire to him. We're like, yeah, bring him in. Everybody's welcome here.
Seth is out kicking puppies the week before the draft.
Like, dude, have you ever been arrested? Like, what you idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with quarterbacks, it's different. Guys with judgment issues off the field tend to have judgment issues on the field, and I would say it's fair to be concerned at least that if a guy seems kind of mentally weak or fragile off the field, then yeah, I might not want to make him my $40 million guy.
Right, this is how he's handling losing. You know what you're going to do on these teams that you're on, Caleb Williams? These teams that are going to draft you, chances are, they're losers.
I love. This is my favorite though. Let's see. I don't even know. There was Joel Klatt talking about how he'll still be the number one overall pick because he can control the game from the pocket. He can control the game with his mind. He's got the requisite arm, clearly. He can create outside the pocket when things break down, and he's a threat with his legs. Yeah, those things are all true, as it was true of Zach Wilson. And, like Zach, I was watching a Zach Wilson highlight reel from college just yesterday. And
me too.
Yeah. Oh, really? Somebody must have been making the rounds.
It popped up on my Twitter
feed.
Yeah.
Plus the Jets are playing Friday. Are they the Black Friday game?
Yeah, they're the Black Friday game.
Jets, Dolphins.
They sure are. And they announced a change in their starting quarterback.
So
Wilson's benched.
But he played behind an awesome offensive line in college. So you didn't get to see him have to do that much, but he had examples of it. He had he
had a Manziel quality to him too, where he had a lot of plays outside of the pocket. He had a lot of wild plays.
Yeah,
you know.
So I don't know. It's so Caleb Williams obviously can't be a good quarterback or anything. It's just that I think they will take it into consideration. But like every quarterback's got negatives on his scouting report. It's a matter of is it something that supersedes all the other stuff.
We have our first two anonymous quotes from executives on Caleb Williams, courtesy of Albert Breer of SI.com. Here they are. This is one AFC exec who went through USC recently, I guess. Went through there recently. Said, quote, "He's well-liked in the program. I think he's really good. I'm not concerned. Obviously, you'll continue to dig and try to spend time with any of these guys, ... Second executive in the AFC.
Did the guy say then that guy drafted Josh Rosen, whoever that was?
Maybe. Maybe. Another AFC executive. Quote, he probably just didn't want to hear, are you going to play in the bowl game? Talking about missing the press conference.
Yeah.
He's super talented. He's athletic, can throw from multiple platforms. He's creative, competitive. Did he have the season he wanted? No. But the guy's pretty damn good. End quote.
I didn't realize that not wanting to do stuff is something that he'll never have to deal with again in the NFL.
Right, or get asked about it.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to say a no comment to somebody. That's a tough one right there. I don't know how I'll ever figure out any of that. I think it's like one of the little question marks they'll have, and they'll follow up on it about it. It's not a barrier or anything, but it's just like any other quarter. Just like C.J. Stroud had a bunch of negatives and Bryce Young had a bunch of negatives. It's an big old crapshoot to figure out which ones actually matter.
Hey, you know how we come in some mornings, especially after the Chiefs played, and we have a bunch of texts from Kansas City because our sister station is also 610
because people reason they start texting us. Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming they type 713 as they're texting us. But still, you watched way more of the game than I did last night. What did Marquez Valdez-Scantling do that has everybody wanting him to get cut or die?
He dropped the go-ahead touchdown at the end of the fourth quarter.
Tyler Boyded it.
You can't blame this one on Rain either. It just laid down right in his arms. Could have caught it. He dropped it. Yeah. It was probably a lot like the Tyler Boyd. I mean, it was raining versus Tyler Boyd's where it was
sunshiny,
Tyler Boyd's, it was
beautiful
perfect
day.
football conditions.
Yeah, 50 and sunny, no wind.
The commentator may have said that like exactly 3 seconds before he dropped that. But boy, you can't ask for better football conditions than this.
Yeah. Someone said, we were talking about Nick Wright in the first segment and a stat that he put up, or maybe this segment, I don't remember. He said this Nick Wright clip needs some airtime too, and there's a link to it. I'm assuming Nick had a clip going around this weekend where it was from back at draft time, where he was describing the Texans as just the most reckless franchise of all time.
He had one
for the Will Anderson trade.
He was saying that the Will Anderson trade could really blow up in the Texans' face. I didn't think that was a bad take. Like at the time or now.
Yeah.
I like looking back on it, it's true. Like that could completely blow up in their. It could still blow up in their face if I don't expect it because Will Anderson has done some really really good things this year, and like everything that
floor is high.
Everything they said about him in terms of his personality, like his energy, all of that, and that you saw in college, he's transferred
Been
that.
true, yeah.
But it was a lot. It was really the station other than Julio Jones for a for a non-quarterback first round pick. So yeah, they rolled the dice on that, and I think so far the theory and the thinking was, okay, you trade up into those top 5 picks as much for security as anything else. Like, okay, that you feel really good about this guy, that his floor is really high. You can't ever predict who's going to be an all-pro or not, but you can say, all right, look, I feel really good that this guy's at least going to be a very productive football player, and so far he's been that.
Yep, agreed. Join the drive with Stoerner and Hughley and our friends at Bud Light tomorrow afternoon. That's Wednesday. It's a special Wednesday edition of a Thirsty Thursday because there's stuff going on Thursday. It's called Thanksgiving. They're going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings in Sugar Land off of Highway 6, so go grab some wings, a cold Bud Light, enter to win some awesome prizes on site. Stick around after the show to watch the game. It's a Thirsty Thursday on a Wednesday with the drive and our friends at Bud Light. That's tomorrow afternoon at the Buffalo Wild Wings in Sugar Land. Headlines up next, an old face back with the Houston Texans. The Rockets, they played the Warriors last night, and a former Texan might be the most dangerous guy in the NFL right now. That is next in Headlines.
The Texans took down the Cardinals 21-16 in a game that once again came down to the final.
Live from the Twin Peaks studios, Sports Radio 610 presents
Payne and Pendergast with today's headlines.
All right, Payne and Pendergast with you. Let's rattle through some headlines here. Texans, they're off today. They're back at practice tomorrow, getting ready for, I would say, the biggest game at NRG Stadium in several years. I mean, they haven't played a single big game there in the last 3 years by definition. So the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to town. Winner walks out of the stadium, first place in the AFC South. I guess the only news item, Seth, with the Texans today, Des King back in the building. He is Des King, cornerback, got cut at the very end of training camp. Bit of a surprise cut, but he is back with the practice squad. Do you think we see Des King back in a Texans uniform on game day at any point?
I think some of that will depend on what the health of the linebacker situation is. They used Javier Thomas as a linebacker in base defense, and then he would play slot corner, in passing situations. But I don't think that's ideally what they want to do, but they want to be sure that maybe they've got more options in the defensive backfield when Javier Thomas is out there playing linebacker. So I would say Toto's been in the concussion protocol for a couple weeks now.
Weeks, yeah. It's
concerning, man.
Yeah.
I would say, yes, there's a very good chance to see Des King.
Okay. I like Des King.
I also think, too, this is, there's some guys, two guys. Des King is one, and Brandon Cooks is another, that I kind of wish I had been able to see D'Amico get an entire year with. Because with Des, I think, again, there was the incident with the Texans where they left him home for whatever reason. He'd had an instance in his
back in 2021.
Yeah, he'd had an instance with the Chargers where he had to miss some time, but it wasn't ever anything publicly disclosed or anything. It was just a little bit weirder. Sometimes guys just, for whatever reason, sometimes they just don't function well, like getting to meetings on time. I have no idea what it was with Des King because he seems like an awesome dude, and I think people like him, and I like him on a football field, but for whatever reason, it's just not quite a perfect fit always in the structured environment. I felt like he could have really thrived under. I think D'Amico's going to have, this is what I hope for D'Amico. I think D'Amico might end up being the type of coach who, much like Marvin Lewis, almost has like a soothing effect on guys who can't always color within the lines.
Yeah.
Now guys like much more extreme than Des King, like guys with like Pac-Man Jones or guys like that. I feel like maybe the Texans, who forever have been way on the safe side of having character risk guys, I think D'Amico might be the kind of coach that that gets those guys to kind of grow up and mature a little bit.
And that's one of those things that on the margins can keep good teams good, because there's going to come a time where they're paying C.J. Stroud $70 million a year.
Yeah,
and you're going to need to find distressed assets.
Yeah, you're going to right, yeah.
You know,
you're going to have to be able to flip a property or two.
Absolutely.
And that's where, if you think about Marvin Lewis and kind of his demeanor too, he wasn't as fiery as D'Amico, but he had that calm. Yeah. That soothing, almost like grandfatherly vibe to him when he was on the sideline, and that's how D'Amico is when he's not. D'Amico is two things: he's either super fiery and excited and jumping up and down, or he's like, just completely even Steven.
Yep.
And that's the personality he has with his players off the field.
Yeah, and I think he knows exactly when to be which version of himself too. He's just incredibly self-aware. The Rockets, they played last night, a little back-to-back. They lost to the Lakers on Sunday. They lose to the Warriors last night. So they're back home now. They made a little West Coast swing. Didn't go so well in the standings. They're competitive in all three of these games, and that's kind of where I'm at with the Rockets right now, Seth. 6-3, 6-game winning streak. They lose these Warriors, but the games are all competitive. And my hope for the Rockets coming into the season have been if they're in that play-in kind of bracket there, the 7 through 10 range in the West.
Is that a new tournament?
It's a new
is that an in-season tournament?
Yeah. Well, that's a postseason. That's a play. That's an in between the regular season and postseason tournament.
Why are you not giving us updates on the in-season tournament?
Because I hate it.
Is it over yet? What's going on with the in-season tournament?
Not even close to over.
The Warriors had lost 5 in a row. No, 6 in a row. They lost 6 in a row. 5 of them at home, which they never lose at home. And
I hate that.
And that's where I feel like they totally had their backs up against the wall.
Yeah. I hate that the Rockets were their get-well game.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So the Rockets were still within 7 late into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Shangun had 30 points and a boatload of rebounds.
He's played really well this year.
This is where they are, though. I think, they're a team that can these have not been abject embarrassments by any stretch of the imagination, these last 3 games, but versus good teams. Now that they're on the radar, I think, this is where the real test begins. Much like with a rookie quarterback. Okay, now you're on the radar. Now we've got film on you. Now the improvement gets a little bit more difficult. You can't just go out there and because you're scrappy on defense, beat some of these better teams. It's going to have to be with a more well-rounded effort.
I hate Steven Silas so much more this season than I did last season when the Rockets actually sucked under the watchful eye of Steven Silas. Because you're watching and it's like, all right, well, half of it is Ime Udoka's just getting these guys to try.
Yeah.
Like they're playing, like they're actually running back on defense. And the Şengün thing is bugging the hell out of it. Like, got super picky about when to play Şengün, and at times you'd be like, why? Şengün's not playing at all. Why is this happening? He's so incredibly skilled. Like, he's such a good offensive player.
I think with Udoka, what I sensed with Udoka, and this is where when I made in the Book of Promises, remember I had said to be patient for 2 weeks and that we'd revisit it after 2 weeks, and it was completely correct. Udoka, much like D'Amico, I think has the mentality of a lot of good coaches, which is, hey, we're going to get really good at something, and then we'll move on and we'll get really good at the next thing. By really good, like competent, know what we're doing, and then we'll move on to the next thing and get good at that. And then guys can play fast because they actually know what the hell they're doing. And you got to take some lumps early on, perhaps, because you're still too simple by NBA or NFL standards, but at least you're making progress. And I think that's where the Rockets still are in some respects. So, yeah, you're right. No, you're exactly right. Silas, it would be when you start divvying up playtime or thinking about skill sets or anything too much with guys that are still such raw clay.
Yeah.
It just, you're not doing anybody any services, either in the present or the future.
Yeah. And Şengün, I mean, you could argue he's been their best player so far this year. Kareem Jackson. What the hell has gotten into Kareem Jackson? He got suspended again. He was suspended for 4 games earlier this year. Appealed it.
I think it was 3 earlier, wasn't it?
It was 4, and he pled it down to 2.
Okay.
Pled it down to 2 like he was in criminal court.
Yeah. Pleaded.
He appealed it down to 2.
Your son's a lawyer. Pleaded.
Yeah. Sorry. That's why he's the lawyer, and I'm a talk show host.
The pony, a stupid Christmas sweater. Your ugly Yingling sweater. It's supposed to be ugly, but your ugly Yingling Christmas sweater.
We have our drawing today for the grand prize on Facebook Live for our Yingling
That's actually one of the nicer, ugly sweaters. It's not actually ugly.
It's a real sweater, too. My guy Dean gave it to me yesterday from Yingling.
It's more of an actual, like a tasteful Christmas
sweater. It's
sweater.
Very comfy, yeah. It's very comfy.
Right. You get the ones at Walmart, and they're like 100. When you go to an ugly,
they're like nylon.
You go to an ugly Christmas sweater party.
I've got several of those.
Yeah, it's a sweaty Christmas party.
Buckle up. Yeah, I've got several of those. Kareem Jackson got suspended for 4 games yesterday because he came in like a missile and put his helmet right into the face of Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, he's a runner. All right, man. I don't know, man. Plus, they show that GIF in slow motion and all that.
Does he have a target on his back, Kareem Jackson? Is he being singled out?
Is he? I don't know. Is Josh Dobbs going to lay him out next time or something? Or you think he's got a target on his back?
No, by the league.
By the league. Yeah.
Like, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt.
The thing is, like with Kareem, I think more so than with Denzel Perryman, Kareem is like launching himself. Even though he's not like the college kid from this last week. Oh my gosh.
Oh jeez.
But he is like. He's been in situations where a guy is being held up or whatever, and he comes in, at least on that Josh Dobbs hit. Yeah. So, I think he's probably being scrutinized very, very closely.
Yep. He won't be for the next 4 games, which means he's going to miss the Texans game. Week 13.
That's where the rubber meets the road when I'm trying to philosophically say, like, listen on these suspensions. Now that I think about Kareem Jackson playing versus C.J. Stroud, I think the league did the right thing.
Yeah, I think they did too. I think the league. I stand by the league.
Everybody's everybody's all about personal liberty until somebody comes after your child.
Good job, Troy Vincent. Exactly.
You guys are too uptight.
It's funny.
Let everybody off parole. Not my child. Yeah.
Hey, we still got a lot to get to. We didn't get to in headlines. We'll get to it later in the show.
That was headlines?
That was headlines, yeah. That was headlines.
I thought it was Shangoonville.
No, but I would go to Shangoon.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
There's a 10-part series about the Patriots coming out on Apple TV.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it, the 30-second trailer. I'll watch it. I think 10 parts is a lot.
10 part. What is it with these documentaries? You know what? There's 2 things that are annoying me with length these days. Long documentaries about sports teams, like the Bulls one,
right?
And that damn what was it? Oh, Scorsese.
Oh,
can somebody take the keys from Scorsese? Every movie he puts out now is like 7 hours long.
Yeah, you've got me agitated.
And critics feel like they have to gush about it. Like,
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Amazing for an hour and a half. It's just the next 2 hours that got a little tedious.
The arrogance comes when they decide not to put an intermission in it.
Yes.
Who the hell do you think you are, Martin Scorsese?
God, yeah.
That you're going to ask people to sit in a theater for 3.5 hours and hold their bladder the entire time just because you've got a lifetime supply of Depends at home, sitting on top of your mob, all these movies and glorifying mob violence.
All right,
my cousin became a mobster because of you dirty old man.
Let's get to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Texans' opponent this coming Sunday. There is one aspect of the Jags that I think coming into the season everybody thought was going to be the reason why they were going to take a big step. To me, it's the reason why I think the Texans have a great chance to win this game on Sunday, and we'll talk about that next.
Make that 3 straight
Odyssey station. Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast.
Here was D'Amico Ryans following Sunday's win over the Cardinals. Media couldn't even let the steam come off of the win over the Cardinals. They're already asking the head coach about the Jags coming up next week or this week. A battle for first place in the AFC South. Here's D'Amico Ryans.
For us, it's credit to our guys, right, for putting us in a position to be where we are, to be able to compete. And so all I ask our guys from day one is just continue to improve, continue to focus on getting better. And, you know, if we're playing meaningful football late in the season, and that shows the growth, that shows that everybody is doing focus on getting better. So it's good for us to be in this spot playing meaningful football.
All right, so Jags coming to town. I was listening to Mark and John talk about it yesterday after we got done, Seth. And Mark is basically the Texans historian. He's the de facto historian of this team. He's called every snap of every game, and he's got great recall.
Yeah, he's like Rain Man.
He is. And Mark's contention is that this is the most important regular season game these two teams have played.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably true. Without going back and looking at every season, it's probably true because
of these two, you mean this matchup between these two teams?
The most important Jags-Texans game of the regular season.
Yeah, for both teams.
Right.
I remember the Jaguars one year. The Texans beat the Jaguars one year when it was a critical one for the Jaguars for them to actually make the playoffs.
Right.
So the Jaguars have had meaningful games versus the Texans, but
vice versa.
Yeah, but never where it's this. Like the winner takes all. You're in the second half of the season, and it'll be for the division lead.
These two teams have generally not been good at the same time. You know, the Jags have been bad for the better part of the last decade and change. The Texans have, believe it or not, Texan fans, the Texans have been good to competitive for most of that time other than the last 3 years.
It's like a man and a woman who would be a great match, but they're never divorced at the same time.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes, it's exactly right. The one season the Jags had that was really, really good, they made the AFC title game.
The Texans were in an alcoholic slumber. Their wife had just left them.
Well, right. And Deshaun Watson's ACL got torn. So this is fun on Sunday. The Jags are both relevant at the same time. In this game, the winner is going to be in first place, and the loser is going to be kind of in that wild card muck, especially the Texans. Texans need this one a little bit more than the Jags, I think, to stay out of that the 5-loss muck with the likes of the Colts and the Bills and the Broncos.
Yeah, the Bills, man.
Bills are a 5-loss team right now. Yeah.
Poor Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey's getting blamed for a lot.
You know what's crazy about that is that Ken Dorsey got fired, and I was going to bring this up later, and I will bring it up later. I was looking at some numbers yesterday.
You're looking at where the where the Bills rank offensively for a lot of different things.
Yards per play, they're third in the league.
I know. Josh Allen, and like with EPA and PFF grades and all that stuff, Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I do think, just by the eyeball test, this is where you go, and I don't think you don't have to be a football expert at all to get this feel. Remember we talked earlier about how with Bill O'Brien's offense, it just seemed difficult at times. It seemed like they had to scratch and claw for every little thing. Yeah, that is the Bills. Yeah. You very much get the sense that, okay, this is all like kind of freakishly, physically impossible play by Josh Allen and a few others more so than it is any kind of an actual offense that feels like it can endure in the playoffs.
With Josh Allen playing the role of Deshaun Watson.
In
the Bill O'Brien offense.
And it's almost like it takes – look, Josh Allen's got a natural proclivity for turning the ball over. It's in him, and he has to fight it all the time. Yeah. So, once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. You're always going to have to be mindful of it and wary of it. And Ken Dorsey, your buddy that – keeps inviting the alcoholic buddy to the bar.
Right.
Come on,
You're
man.
supposed to be my sponsor.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be my sponsor.
If you weren't so selfish, you'd go to the bar with me and just hang out and not drink.
That's right.
All I want to do is hang out at the bar, and you're like, oh, I can't because my wife left me.
It's the at the end that made me laugh so hard.
Dorsey.
Yes.
Yeah, just throw it to him on the sideline.
So back to the Jags for a second, because similar argument about the Jags, and this number got unearthed because I was reading an article about the Browns, believe it or not, and the big question in that Mike Sando had in this article was was, can the Browns win with Joe Flacco at quarterback? The Browns signed Joe Flacco yesterday.
Hells yeah, they can.
So Christmas Eve may be spent with Joe Flacco here at NRG Stadium. So, but the Browns, whether it's Flacco or DTR or whoever, whoever they've got RG3, whoever's starting at quarterback for the Browns, they're going to have to win it a lot like the Broncos did with Peyton Manning back in 2015. Yeah. Peyton Manning was one of the worst quarterbacks in football in 2015. He got benched for Brock Osweiler midway through the season, and yada, yada, yada. The Broncos go on to win the Super Bowl, largely based on their defense coming up huge. They beat the Panthers. Von Miller was the MVP of the Super Bowl. He had a touchdown in that game, so on and so forth. So the question in this article was, can the Browns replicate that? Why am I bringing this up when we're talking about the Jags? Because in that article, Seth, they had the worst since 2000 that had at least 7 wins or were above 500 10 games into the season. So teams that are good 10 games into the season, but they're just wretched offensively for some reason. Mm-hmm. The Jaguars are on that list. The Jaguars are the 8th worst offense, according to EPA, expected points added. They are the 8th worst offense of a winning team through 10 games since 2000. Trevor Lawrence supposed to take the big step this year. They got Calvin Ridley, and they're running it with Travis Etienne. I will say this, the times I've watched the Jags, I don't watch them and go, that is a horrific offense. But I do watch them and say, Trevor Lawrence has not taken that next step this year.
Right, yeah. And but they've got
Stroud's a better quarterback than Trevor.
Just like the Browns. And this year in the NFL in general, either because there's not that many good quarterbacks or maybe because teams are playing a more conservative brand of defense that just makes it harder for quarterbacks to be explosive. You look at the Browns and the Jaguars, and it's enough. It's enough this year. As far as, I don't want to get too far away from the Jaguars game, but I was thinking about, as you asked about Joe Flacco, one of my objections to RG3 coming back was that he said he could be a good game manager, and he's always been a guy that threw a lot of interceptions. Mm-hmm. As soon as I said that they could win with Joe Flacco, I remembered, Joe Flacco used to throw a boatload of interceptions.
Joe Flacco is largely a below-average quarterback, other than an amazing run in the 2012 postseason.
In a year in which he bet on himself.
Yeah.
Remember, he turned down a huge contract to come back and just kick the can down. But he probably has a worse touchdown-interception ratio than RG3.
Flacco?
232 touchdowns to 147 interceptions.
In this day and age, that's a terrible ratio.
Yeah. I think the thing that stands out there though is that he's started 400 games almost, whereas RG3 does not have that same level of experience.
Yep. So
and he's more recently played the actual game of football.
He has. Yeah, he won a couple games for the Jets last year. So we'll get to him on Christmas Eve. As far as the Jags go, I don't know what it is, man. The Jags, they're top. They've since the Texans beat them in Week 3, they went on a 5-game winning streak. And then the Niners kind of gave them a wake-up call a couple weeks ago. But during that 5-game winning streak, they were getting a ton of love, a ton of benefit of the doubt. You couldn't get past 5 or 6 in a lot of the power rankings of the entire NFL before you got to the Jags. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, I don't know, man. I'm just they're good, but they're not scared. The Chiefs are still scary good to me with Patrick Mahomes. I know they're not what they've been. You and I broke it down in the first hour of the show. They're not what they've been offensively. They still got Mahomes. The Ravens are scary good to me based on what Lamar Jackson in that running game can do to you. Honestly, we just got done talking about the Bills. There's something about the Bills that scare me more than the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, and the Bills are 6-5 this year.
If you just look at a simple stat, just scoring margin, the Jaguars are plus, on average, they win by 3 points, or 2.6 points per game is what their average scoring margin is.
Okay.
Not how much the Texans are have an average scoring margin of plus 3.0 points.
Okay.
Whereas a team like Dallas or San Francisco, who just destroy
huge margin,
and they destroy bad teams, plus 12 points on average per game.
What's per game?
Yeah. I looked up there. I went to the wrong website for just a simple plus minus.
The ESPN standings has it. They've got it up.
They
there.
do.
Yes, they do. They do.
So you and your fancy 4-letter network kissing up so much. I know where you want to play.
Oh yeah, I want to get to Bristol. So the Jags and the Texans, as far as comparing them, it's become a thing now. The Athletic does their recap of Week 11 and what the storylines are heading into next week. They've got their three experts that do the Monday article, Seth, Mike Jones, Ted Nguyen, and Dan Pompei. And they were asked the question, with the Jags and the Texans both winning this week, which team do you see having the edge in the AFC South and could either make a serious run in the postseason? The Texans, we like Mike Jones. He says it may sound crazy, but I give the Texans the slight edge. They beat the Jags already this year. There's something about the Jags that makes it hard to believe in them. Maybe it was the way they got blown out by San Francisco. Maybe it's a hot and cold nature of Trevor Lawrence, who only has 11 touchdown 11. What a pauper. Jacksonville not good on third down this year either, he says. He says he has more confidence in Houston's ability to win the division. The other two say, Ted Nguyen says the Jags, but he's very wishy-washy about it. Dan Pompei basically gives the worst answer of all. The question is, which team do you see having the edge in the AFC South? Dan Pompei, in a week where we're heading into a game between the two. Well, we'll get a better idea next Sunday. Thanks, bro. Thanks for that analysis. Yeah, we will get a better idea because the winner will be in the driver's seat in the AFC South.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing, dude.
So the easy to understand stats, Texans are plus 30 on the year. The Jaguars are plus 26.
What are the Bills, out of curiosity? You got the whole standings there in front of you?
I do. The Bills are plus 104.
Yeah, see, that kind of passes the smell test of what I was saying. Like, the Bills are scarier to me than the Jags are because the Bills can take you to the woodshed.
No. The Texans and the Jaguars are both in that area where, okay, they're a 500 team plus. I think a couple weeks ago, my concern was that the Texans were very much like they are a 500 team because they've won games on the last possession. They've lost games on the last possession. These last 2 weeks, they've turned into a 500 plus for me because they've actually won the physical battles throughout the entire game. I feel like, look, CJ's interceptions, partly bad luck, partly perhaps too risky, all of that. That kept it from the scoreboard. But in both these last games, I don't think the scoreboard really accurately reflected how the physical battles were being won and lost on the field. I
agree.
Which happens. I'm not saying that it's bad luck or anything. That just happens sometimes. Texans got to get better at scoring. But that's where I think the Jaguars are too. On average, they're doing a lot of things right, but they just like the Texans, top-end talent at every position group the way a lot of the other teams do.
Yeah. Plus 30, plus 26. Bills are 6-5, and they're plus 104.
Yeah. Ken Dorsey recently fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
I wonder Ken Dorsey. Remember, Ken Dorsey was famous because everybody driving right now and listening, if you think about that Bills coach that flipped out in the press box last year, it was through his computer. Through his
what else
did he throw? He slammed his computer.
Some notebooks.
Yeah,
maybe another human at one point.
That was Ken Dorsey.
Yeah,
and it gets me thinking about some of these guys in their game day routines. I see some of these coordinators drinking Red Bulls and everything. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how are you supposed to? How are you supposed to be making the right decisions as you're sitting up there amped up on Red Bull?
Except I don't know if you've heard, but they work 28 hours a day.
Yeah, I know that's the problem.
They gotta stay awake, man.
Like if you're drinking that much Red Bull, either A, to stay awake, or because you just need to feel the rush, man, like, what do you think that's doing to your decision making?
It's true.
If you're not up, like, you're not trying to play Call of Duty for 48 straight hours. You're like making decisions in a time crunch under high pressure circumstances.
It gives you wings.
It does, yeah. It gives you wings. It gives you guts to go try a 40-foot half pipe.
Right.
It doesn't help you make better decisions in crucial situations in the fourth quarter of football.
It helps you single-handedly torpedo your coaching career to ever get a head coaching job. Like, when your GM comes to the owner and says, "This is the guy I'm recommending, Ken Dorsey." Okay. I've heard of him basically murdering a laptop. Like, no, I think we're going to pass.
There's a shocking lack of respect for property amongst whether it's Tom Brady, Ken Dorsey, anybody else. You throw one of those Surface tablets, like, come on, man, it's a few $100. I'm guessing that's not your ordinary run-of-the-mill baseline model of a Surface tablet.
I know it's a $10 billion business, but stop ruining the hardware. It was funny when Vandy and Andre came out to do Men Behind the Mics with us on the pregame on Sunday. We were talking beforehand, just during the break, and somehow Ken Dorsey, Buffalo came up, and Vandy's like, "Yeah, that was tough seeing Kenny get fired." I'm like, "Kenny, like, like he's your boy. And I had forgotten that Vandy was the play-by-play guy for those Miami teams that Kenny was the quarterback for, a Heisman candidate for. Right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Ben, our fellow Kane in the control room there. Do you call him Kenny also, Benny?
Affectionately, yes.
Affectionately, okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah, Vandy, when he goes, yeah, that was tough what happened with Kenny. I'm like, why do you care? And why are you calling him Kenny? He killed Kenny. Yeah, they did.
Ken Dorsey.
He killed a laptop.
He kind of looks like, doesn't he look like he would
nerd?
Be?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but almost like a villainous one. Like he'd be in a movie where he's kind of like the quiet guy that all of a sudden you find out
a nefarious nerd.
He's got 27 bodies in his closet.
He looks like the really psycho Navy SEAL from the movie The Rock, the evil Navy SEALs that were.
I never saw The Rock.
You never saw The Rock?
No.
I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
It's not long.
Oh.
It's only like an hour and 40 minutes. No, I say this self-deprecating. Hour and 4 minutes. Weigh in on the text page. Would Seth Payne like the movie The Rock?
And what does Ken Dorsey play in that movie?
There's a character that looks a lot like Ken Dorsey. Ben, have you seen The Rock?
I've seen it. I don't know who you're talking about.
I'm talking about the one the one that gets the ball of the virus jammed in his mouth by Nicolas Cage. That guy with the crazy eyes.
Yeah. He looks like him.
This picture I'm looking at him here, he looks completely like the woman, like the man that decides that he just has to kill his wife so she finally learns the lesson that she needs to learn. Like that it's not, he doesn't even want to. It's just this is the only way she'll learn.
I'm gonna go find
he thinks about it.
Yeah.
You know, he's got like a manifesto written about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go find the guy that I'm talking about. I don't know the name of the actor. He's like one of these character actors that's in like 80 different movies. But I'll find it for you during the break. All right. Would Seth Payne like the movie The Rock? This is a Thanksgiving week topic for sure. All right. I mentioned I was going through some numbers. I was surprised by the Buffalo Bills and how good they are offensively. In going through these numbers, I also had the stark realization that Bobby Slowick's gone after 1 year.
Oh, yeah, there's no way in hell. I'm sorry, everybody.
Bobby Slowick's gone, and I'm going to tell you what exactly the eye-opener was for that next. But first, the Yellow Rose Distillery, yellowrosedistilling.com. Bourbon and Bingo, Tuesday.
Lease from DNM.
Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast.
So I'm just doing a very innocent little run through some stats. I'm like, the Texans, this feels like the best offense I've ever watched with the Texans. Maybe close to the early part of the 2010s.
Really?
Definitely the most explosive offense I've watched with the Texans.
Well, they push the ball.
They're the most
down
explosive
the
team
field.
in football.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, CJ, there's in a lot of different statistical categories. They're the best at throwing the ball downfield. Yeah,
they have more explosive plays in their last 3 games than the Steelers and the Panthers have all season long.
Wow.
Yeah, by explosive meaning 15-plus yards. That's the definite for purposes of this argument.
It's because Bryce Young isn't greedy like some people.
That's right.
That's the whole thing.
He likes to make sure everybody gets their little tiny bit.
He's a seraphim.
I'd rather everybody get their yes, he's got a seraphim's glow.
That's right. Oh,
yeah. Okay. Eyes as wide as the Sphinx. But this is what made me nervous going and looking up just how awesome the Texans have been offensively. I looked up yards per attempt and yards per play because those are the two that gamblers really like. And I'm a gambler. Yards per play, they're 5th in the league. Really good. Behind only Miami, San Francisco, Buffalo, and Detroit.
Bums.
And then Houston at 5. This was the one that scared me into going, crap, Slowick's gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're 3rd in yards per attempt passing. Okay. San Francisco is 1st, 9.6 yards per pass attempt. 8 for purposes of comparison, 8 is elite.
Yeah,
if you're over 8, that's elite. San Francisco first at 9.6.
Miami's going to be 2nd.
Miami 2nd, 8.6. Houston 3rd, 8.3. What do those 3 have in common? Kubshanistan as Kubshanistan gets.
Yep, and Mike McDaniel was a before he got plucked away. And honestly, for anybody tell me. I know Mike McDaniel, people love his quirky humor, sense of humor and everything. Sean and I thought we were going to hate him, and now we can't help but like him. But now we're starting to wonder if, the shtick's worn out a little bit. Does he strike you as a guy who people looked at and thought totally head coach material?
Leader of men. Yeah.
Right, and not to mention, he was a coordinator for underneath Kyle Shanahan. He wasn't actually a coordinator.
Oh, Slowick's got way more responsibility than McDaniel had.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a gamble for Mike McDaniel in a lot of ways, just like it was for LaFleur. Like LaFleur doesn't have a head coach personality. Kevin Stefanski doesn't quite strike you as like the classic. So look, I think the whole head coach personality thing is way overblown, but it's what works in getting jobs.
Dude.
You know, Bill O'Brien is the quintessential.
Yeah.
Why do you think he keeps getting so many great jobs?
Yeah.
He knows how to freaking interview.
Central casting.
And he looks like a football coach.
Yeah.
Talks like a football coach.
Well,
Slowick, this is what I hope for Slowick, Sean. This is what you have to hope. Or do you have more
No, go ahead.
That I wonder if he's ever had any conversations with Kyle Shanahan about how, like, man, really wish I'd stayed in Atlanta one more year and actually won the Super Bowl. You know, like actually just gotten it done. Not that he would have phrased it that way because he wouldn't want to say, but there is an argument that, like, okay, look, they got a really good thing going here. And maybe the job prospects, maybe the jobs that open up are ones that he doesn't feel awesome about.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with Ben Johnson up in Detroit. Like, he kind of pulled himself out.
Interviewed here and then pulled out.
Don't tell him I don't want to say this too much, but it's kind of like tanking for next year's quarterback because you don't like this current crop. Like, okay, there were people out there like Chicago that might have thought, like, well, Caleb Williams is where it's at. I'm not gonna mess with these guys this year. Okay, great. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Now Stroud's piecing.
Yeah, likewise, Ben Johnson or others might have thought, like, oh, I don't want that Houston job. What a mess.
Right.
And then, here you go.
Yeah.
Like, you can't overthink it. You got to embrace the randomness of life, man.
I agree.
Nobody tell Slowick that.
No.
Tell Slowick it's all awful out there.
No. Yeah, if you're in the car with Slowick right now, I would never tell you this, but don't change the station. Turn down the station a little bit and start a conversation with him.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't want you to change the
Problem is
station.
Slowick. So right now, the one like obvious vacancy, except that they're doing pretty well under the interim coach, would be the Raiders.
The Raiders, yeah. Yep. You know who I wonder? You bring up Shanahan. You know, I would imagine D'Amico's a resource for Bobby Slowick as well. You know, he just went through a head coaching journey.
Yeah.
I wonder what Slowick's dad is telling him.
Oh yeah, because his dad was a long time.
Dad
NFL
was a
coach.
DC in the NFL. Like, that's the other thing about Bobby. He's got the genes for it. You know, like he comes from a coaching family.
Maybe his dad's actually the play caller. Maybe his dad's piped in on Bluetooth, and that's the. We got a whole thing going here. Slowick actually. What if it turned out that Slowick was actually a dullard?
What if it turns out that Slowick's dad is calling all the plays except for the short yardage situations?
Maybe. That's what it makes.
It's really stupid.
More realistically, maybe his dad is calling the running plays. And he's
Give it to Beck.
Slowick's got to just.
Back in my day.
That's a fullback.
Bears had Walter Payton, but they would hand it to Matt Suey.
I know Tom Rathman when I see Tom Rathman, and that Andrew Beck is as close to a Tom Rathman.
Roger Craig, who? Give it to Rathman. I thought I could make it through a whole hot head coaching prospect article without seeing Bobby Slowick's name.
Guys, hold on a second. I'm going to need a moment. I'm sitting here looking at pictures of Tom Rathman, present day. Just telling me that, dude. That's a man right there.
That is a man's man. Yes, that is a man's man.
All right, back to what you were talking about.
The Athletic, Mike Jones, who we were just talking about before, put out a list of head coaching candidates for 2024. Ben Johnson, Brian Johnson, and 12 others to watch. So he lists them all here, and it's the usual suspects here. Eric Bieniemy, Ejiro Evero, Brian Flores is on this list. Jim Harbaugh is on the list.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Ben Johnson, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore.
I love Jim Harbaugh. There's nothing self-conscious about him in any situation ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Be fun to cover.
Ever. I bet after his first sexual experience, which, dang it, what time is it? 7:33? All right. Never mind.
They're out of school this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I bet you, like, after delivering a woman 9 seconds of pure bliss, he gets a blitz and bliss. He stands up completely selfish she's had.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, be sure you tell all your friends.
Right. And does an interview spending 3 minutes explaining why it was amazing.
He's up there on the podium every time I see him talking now. He's talking about how glorious the Michigan is right now.
They're America's team.
Yes.
I am America's sexer. Yeah. So I got through this list, and I'm like, this is awesome. I made it all the way to the bottom, And here's Steve Wilkes and Dan Quinn. Oh, bonus candidate. They made Mike Jones made him a bonus candidate, almost as if to troll us. Bobby Slowick, OC, Houston Texans. Here's what he says: he's in just his first season as a play caller, so maybe a bit premature. But Slowick will receive some consideration for head coaching positions this hiring cycle. Everybody's looking for the next bright offensive mind, and the 36-year-old Slowick, the latest impressive Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan disciple, fits the bill because of his success with C.J. Stroud and the surprisingly competitive Texans. He's also the son of a former NFL DC, Bob Slowick. He likely will have to wait at least another cycle to actually land a head coaching job, but Shanahan's former right-hand man in San Fran following Mike Daniels' departure is coming.
I don't understand why they keep saying that. They're going by the old rules of needing at least a couple years as a coordinator. There have been so many examples in the last 2 years of guys who have just had 1 year of coordinating experience in the NFL. If that. Some of them haven't even been coordinators, and especially coming out of the Kubiak-Shanahan system. So that's where I just, honestly, I understand everybody's arguments. I'm sure there's why. You got to remember, we're not arguing about whether a team should hire Bobby Slowick. It's whether they will hire Bobby Slowick. And there are a lot of owners out there that just flat out think, look, the vast majority of NFL coaching hires are failures anyway. There are a lot of owners out there that think, well, all right, I'm at least going to gamble on a guy that maybe he ends up being a head coach, but it looks like he's a good offensive coordinator already. That's the thing that's so highly coveted, is getting a good offensive coordinator. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it. He can bring in his offense, and we'll see if he can be a good head coach. It's either sink or swim. But otherwise, okay, I go with somebody with more of a resume. And the Rams really started it with Sean McVay. Yeah. Because they said, all right, what are we going to do? Okay, so great.
30. We
let Sean McVay get some seasoning and wait 2 or 3 years, and then somebody else gets them or, outbids us. No, we're just going to go ahead and take our chance right now.
Yep. And they were in the Super Bowl in 3 years with Sean McVay. That's
how the Panthers ended up with Josh McCown, because we missed out on him. That's right. We could have hired Josh McCown, and instead he's off there, keeping Bryce Young from getting murdered, at least so far.
And keeping him from getting more than 4 yards per attempt. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
They're keeping Bryce Young's head from getting too big.
The general consensus is you need to see The Rock. 1996 is when it came out. Holy crap.
Well, I was only 4 years old at the time. That's Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage.
And Sean Connery?
Sean Connery.
Is Sean Connery alive?
Ed Harris. It's a good question.
No. Hold on, let's gamble on it. Oh.
No, he is not.
Come on, Ben. I wanted to gamble. When did he pass away? Ben, tell me now.
Ben just like we did.
It seems like it was only a couple years ago.
Yeah, Sean Connery. Let's take a look.
He started out as a male model.
Sean Connery?
Yeah.
I can see that. He's very handsome. Yeah.
He's no Tom Rathman, but still.
He died on Halloween. He died on Halloween during COVID 2020.
The problem with there was so much going on during COVID. It just everything. It was like a warp zone where stuff happened that you kind of left your consciousness and you forget about it.
You need to see The Rock. Okay. The Rock is to you what Gladiator was to me. Although Gladiator is probably a more iconic movie than The Rock, I would say.
But there's
probably more egregious that I hadn't seen Gladiator than you not seeing The Rock.
I'm probably missing out on some pop culture references.
Maybe,
I haven't seen
a little bit. But I do think you'd like it. It's an easy watch.
I don't when you're watching a comedy and you realize that they're parodying a movie or something and you don't know what it is. And then you got to go ask somebody and explain it to them, and then you really sound like you sound like an idiot is what you do.
The hardest part will be to watch it is you get so used to watching these action adventure movies nowadays, and cell phones are such an integral part of it.
Yeah,
it's 96, so it's pre-iPhone.
Right.
So you catch yourself going, well, just text the guy.
Yeah. That's like everything before. Yeah, why don't they just text people?
Yeah.
This is easy. Look it up on the internet. That was what was with the Da Vinci Code. There's a scene in the movie where who was that? Tom Hanks. Because this is in the late 90s or whatever. They're basically look, I can go to LexisNexis on my telephone, and this is all high tech stuff and everything, and we'll find out the 9th digit of pi. Yes, you can actually do this. Yeah.
All right. Hey, speaking of which, we just had to do a lookup on Sean Connery. The same prominent football people that you watch on Sundays with another prominent figure, mistaken death. Also, the dumbest thing Seth Payne has done in a while.
Yeah.
He's going to disclose to the audience as well. Hey, let's give away some Houston Texans ticket. It's a Texans Ticket Tuesday. Biggest game at NRG Stadium, I would say, in at least 4 years. The Jags coming to town. It's for first place in the AFC South. It's on the line. 713-572-4610. Let's go. You know you want to be in the building for the biggest game of the year. You know you want to be in the front row of the bullpen for the biggest game of the year. 713-572-4610. You're going to have 2 more chances to win. Just be listening in the noon and 5 p.m. hours for your chance to win. It's a Texans Ticket Tuesday on your home for the Texans, Sports Radio 610. Let's get it. All right, the dumbest thing Seth Payne's done in a while, and a dumb thing, although a dumb thing I definitely would have done, that happened on the Red Zone channel this weekend. That is next. Men's Tea Clinic, one of the smartest things I've done.
Sports Radio 610 presents Payne and Pendergast.
Sean Connery was 90 when he died. 90.
You know who's in his 90s, and I just watched a movie that he recently produced, acted, and directed in? Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he's still getting after it.
The
man.
Mule.
Yeah. That was the movie?
Yeah.
Or is that his nickname?
No, it's he was a drug mule in the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's not a spoiler because the name of the movie is The Mule. But he's a drug mule. He stumbles into being a drug mule.
At his age?
When he's in his 90s, yeah. Which is a kind of like.
It's actually a smart plan. Who would suspect it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's how they did with the Orthodox Jews for a long time. Like nobody suspected those guys, like some of those kids coming over.
Yeah.
So they talked a few young ones into smuggling drugs. Yeah, old people, I would imagine, are very.
That's good. I'll have something to do in my 90s now.
Well, plus his driving record was incredibly clean.
Oh, was it really?
Well, he's 90 years old and he's never had any kind of ticket or anything. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, was
it
good?
It was good, except that the. He's just driving drugs from like one American city to another.
That's unrealistic.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it? I guess maybe it's not. I mean, they got to get stuff. I feel like he was making too much money for being a domestic mule.
Okay.
Like if you're going across the border, like okay, I can see getting the money there, but like driving it from like say Houston to Topeka or something, then
is
it's
that
like
a mule?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're still a mule.
Does he just have it in his car, or is it in his lower intestine?
He's got it in the back. He's got it in the back of his pickup.
Yeah, that's not a mule.
With a canvas
You're
cover
a mule
over the
if
top.
you have a balloon in your lower intestine full of hard drugs.
And you've got to risk.
That's a mule.
It's got to be some kind of a border crossing.
Yeah.
Other than a state
the movie
within
sounds
the
like
United
it
States.
stinks.
No. It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Okay.
It's as good as it could be for like a 90s for
90-year-old
Clint Eastwood directed movie right
drug
these
mule.
days.
So he directed it too.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of people in their 90s, it's actually a good segue.
I'm thinking about one scene in it, or there's a couple weird scenes that don't quite fit. Yeah.
Okay, it's on the list. Jimmy Carter, his wife Rosalind passed away this past week. Former First Lady Rosalind Carter passed away this past week, and it happened on Sunday, I believe, in the middle of the football Sunday on the Red Zone channel. Red Zone channel is unlike the other network channels where they show the games and they're able to put a ticker across the bottom of the screen. Breaking news, former First Lady Rosalind Carter has passed away. Scott Hansen is the host on the NFL Network. They don't, for whatever reason, they didn't have that capability because they're flashing around from game to game.
Right.
He verbally interjected to notify America that Rosalind Carter had passed away, and he made a bit of a faux pas.
Our crawl at the bottom of the screen was covering up the CBS News special report. I'll just pass along to you that Rosalind Carter, the wife of the late President Jimmy Carter, has died at the age of 96. Rosalind Carter and Jimmy Carter were married for 77 years. That was the breaking news report at the bottom of the screen there.
Okay, now I'm not going to give – I am not here to give Scott Hansen any kind of grief over this. I'm here to stand alongside Scott Hansen.
What was the mess up there?
The late Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's still alive.
Oh, he said the late Jimmy Carter.
The late
I didn't
Jimmy
hear that.
Carter.
Okay.
He said the late. Is this bad that I had to look up and see if Jimmy Carter was still alive?
He's got Alzheimer's,
he's been in hospice.
does he not?
He's been in. I know there's been a lot of health news with Jimmy Carter over the last year or so. I couldn't remember if he had passed yet or not.
I don't think that. The thing is, though, I don't think that's a big. I mean, it's like it's an obvious mistake. It's not like he was misreporting on purpose or anything.
Right.
But it's also he didn't break news that Jimmy Carter had died. He just kind of casually he said the late Jimmy Carter, so he made that mistake. But it wasn't like somebody like who was totally aware of Jimmy Carter being alive.
Right.
All of a sudden thought like, oh my gosh, he died. Right?
That's a great point. Yeah, like if you thought Jimmy Carter was dead, then you're like, oh yeah, the late Jimmy Carter. If you thought Jimmy Carter was alive, you're probably like, well, he needs to correct that. And he did. He actually, Ben, do we have it? He actually came back on a few minutes later and apologized.
I believe I accidentally said the late Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter's still alive. Rosalind Carter has passed away at the age of 96.
Okay. I think honestly,
not really an apology, but okay.
But it was a clarification. I don't think he needed to apologize. He's out there doing it. He's covering He's covering however many sports games at any one given moment. And all
9
of a
at
sudden,
that
he's got to
time.
venture into actual news.
Yeah.
And he just absent-mindedly says the late Jimmy Carter.
No, I had to look it up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he probably actually knew, but accidentally said the late Jimmy Carter. I actually had to look it up. So I stand
It's
with
not.
Scott
It's
Hansen.
not like Jimmy Carter is at a stage in his political career where somebody at home was like, "Oh no, who's gonna fix Gaza?" Like it just it was it was you either knew it or you didn't.
Yep.
I give Scott Hansen a pass.
I do too. Yeah.
He could have announced that the late Seth Payne was gonna be a guest in the second half, and I would have been like, "That's cool, whatever." Pretty much. I'm dead inside in a lot of ways.
Okay,
So-
what's this thing that you did? The dumbest thing you've done in a while?
Oh, okay. I feel like as soon as you teased it, I was like, well, it's not like necessarily teasable, but it is pretty dumb. Okay, so
I just want to make sure we got to
you
it.
see my sneakers.
Yeah.
These Airwalks.
Yeah.
They get these, but they're old man Airwalks. They're not. So Airwalks. Airwalks are they're like orthopedic Airwalks. Airwalks are like skater
Got 'em
shoes.
right on the camera there. If you're watching on YouTube and Twitch, you can see.
Then you can watch me put my foot behind my leg, my head, ladies.
Yeah, you're pretty flexible, dude.
That's right. So
that's what she said.
So I got these Airwalks because I've never had a pair before. I'm like, I gotta get some Airwalks, and they're super comfy and everything.
Okay.
But they're like really durable, like they're that's a heavy duty canvas there.
Can I guess? Is the dumbest thing you've done in a while is taking up skateboarding?
Yeah, I tried to ollie. No. I did try to ollie a few years ago. Oh my! If you've never skateboarded in your life, don't think you're gonna ollie the first day.
So this is whatever it is the dumbest thing you've done since you tried to ollie.
So like they're tough shoes. Like they're very rigid, And but these have like an air sole in them.
Yeah.
For the olds. And so I'm walking around in them for a couple days. I'm like, God, my feet are killing me because they're really stiff. And I'm like, well, I just got to break them in. And then I flew in them, and your feet swell up a little bit on your. And I'm like, oh my God, these are painful. But I'm like, this is dumb. Like these are. I'm not gonna just go throw these out. I'm just being a wimp. I'm just gonna walk around so for about a month. For about a month, I walked in them, and I was getting worse, and I was getting like Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis and everything.
Dude.
And Brandy's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, this is where it starts. You can't give in to this old age." And then a couple days ago, I realized, hey, what if I loosen the laces a little bit?
Oh my God!
So I loosened the laces a little
a
bit,
month?
and they're very, very comfortable.
Are they now that you've loosened the laces?
Yes.
Did you lose the instruction manual to the shoes or something?
I don't know.
I went to a YouTube to see how to make these shoes more comfortable, and the guy loosened the laces 15 seconds in, and I'm like, Eureka!
I was like, those bind to the shoes to make them
laces.
tighter. Yeah, I was like, I'll tell you what.
How tight
if
do you
I'd been in
tie
charge in ancient China, those women would have been so hot and sexy with their tiny little feet.
Oh, yeah.
I never would have loosened a damn thing on the foot binders.
How tight do you tie your shoes?
No, that's how they came out of the box. I don't know.
Okay.
I felt like it was I felt like it was a me thing, not a shoe thing.
I got you.
Or the laces.
So how are they now?
I love them now.
Yeah,
now I'm going to take up skateboarding again. This does remind me though, another disturbing trend that I've noticed lately. I've seen this 3 times in the last year. Adult men skateboarding through airports.
Wait, stop it.
Yes. I was in O'Hare, and this hooligan, this 39-year-old hooligan, comes whizzing by me on his skateboard.
Is it a skateboard?
I'm like, you son of a bitch. I am so jealous. And at the same time, I went right back to, like I'm some newsstand owner in 1985. I'm like, you damn kids, get away from my stoop.
Like an actual skateboard, or was it like electronic?
No, a skateboard.
Like a real skateboard.
And it's always been adult, middle-aged men. Like former skaters, but I think they're like, no, I'm still that guy. Yeah.
In
Skateboarding
O'Hare?
is not a crime, except it technically probably is.
Dude.
O'Hare, Denver, and where was it? I said it was one in Denver and one in no. In Oregon, I saw one, but it was he was carrying it, but that airport is in Eugene.
Yeah.
It's carpeted.
Yeah. Denver, I could see skateboarding in. It's very spacious. The airport in Denver.
O'Hare is crowded as hell.
Dude, if you're skateboarding in O'Hare, you're a horrible human being. You're a terrible human being. Now, if you're doing it too, and you're doing it successfully, then what are you wasting your time doing, going to whatever meeting it is you're going and flying to?
Yeah.
Like, you should be on the professional circuit if you're skateboarding through O'Hare.
You know what happened to O'Hare, too? Was I was walking through O'Hare with Brandy, and Brandy's very good about this. She never tells me about it until after the fact because she doesn't want her husband arrested. We're walking through, and some guy was coming towards us, and he, like gave a hard shoulder to my wife.
What?
She said, like, he looked right at me and, like, wouldn't. And, like, I tried to start to move, and he, like, gave her a hard shoulder.
Why?
I don't know. He was a psychotic. He was like Ken Dorsey. And it was, he looks like Ken Dorsey. That's a joke from way back, everybody.
Yeah.
No, Ken Dorsey's not psychotic.
Rewind feature.
But she's done it. She's always been like this. She knows that I don't need any more incidents on my record. So she waits until later to tell me. But then it's even worse because, like, I feel like
you didn't see it happen.
I told her, no. I was walking. She's walking 10 feet behind me like she's supposed to.
What if you had seen it happen?
I would have grabbed him.
Yeah.
And given him a talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she doesn't trust me because I've been times where I've never actually assaulted anybody, but when we were younger, there were a couple times where I felt like she was disrespected, and I scared the bejesus out of a couple guys.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Back when I was huge too, especially.
Yeah.
So, but she always that was in trouble. So, but now she'll tell me about it afterwards, and it's even worse because I'm like, well, A, I don't get to do anything about it, and B, you still don't trust me to not have an incident.
Brandy's a sweetheart. Why would he run into her of all people?
It had nothing to do with her. It had to do with her being a female. It was like it was him being psychotic.
Yeah,
I
got you.
You gotta remember this, Sean. In life, you gotta always remember, like it's never about you. It's always about somebody else.
True.
Even if you're the one being a jerk, somebody else having an issue with
They
it.
caused
like, okay,
it.
there's something. No. It's in that instance, it's you. But there's always. Like, there's people are either tolerant of or they've got things that they've got access to grind or whatever.
Yeah.
In that situation, that's just a crazy person. That's what everybody in Houston, you need to hear this. You got to learn to understand when somebody's just crazy. I saw somebody arguing with a guy out in front of his store the other day, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's crazy.
Yeah,
like this guy's he's a loon.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to let it go, man. You're not going to win this argument.
Yeah.
And he was, and like this guy was on the verge of probably. Like, he was in the right, technically, except that he was arguing with a guy who was bona fide crazy.
Yeah.
In that instance, like, it's not, the shopkeeper's got to realize it's not about you. It's like, this guy's, he's got an issue. You got to let it go.
I'm just thinking right now, Amy's probably listening right now, and she's probably so jealous of Brandy that she has a guy that if the psychotic guy shoulders her, like, gets agitated and says, I got to go grab this guy and at least give him a stern talking to, because she's got me. Like, if some dude, like, psycho guy ran into her, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Bitches, right?
Sorry. I get it, sir. You like that. And you can look at her like that. Just stop looking at me like that. I'm frightened.
You something?
I'm frightened, yeah. And it has nothing to do, when I say I get it has nothing to do with Amy. Amy's, I love her to death. But I just don't want that psycho guy to come after me.
I have a hard time.
Situation.
I have a hard time stepping away from situations where I feel like there's been an injustice, even if it wasn't my wife or something. Like, I always felt, and I blame the movie Lean on Me. I feel like as much as River Phoenix was painted out to be like the ultimate adolescent male in that, how does he die? Spoiler alert, everybody. Ultimately, in that movie, he dies breaking up a fight. Gets stabbed, right? And that's how I always feel. I always imagine Richard Dreyfuss narrating my life in that way. Like, Seth Payne died at the age of 48 while defending a woman at the airport.
Dreyfuss.
Somebody pulled
Dreyfuss is up there on the narrators. He was a Stand By Me. No, you're thinking Stand By Me, not Lean on Me.
Not Lean on Me. Oh, boy, that didn't make any sense.
Like, River Phoenix was in Lean? I'm just going to go with this.
Remember when River Phoenix was the principal of that inner city high school?
I knew it was some movie with a verb and a prepositional phrase.
Do you remember when River...
Stand by me, lean on me, sit on me.
Do you remember that movie where 15-year-old River Phoenix walked into an inner city high school with a bat and said, I'm in charge now?
I'm here to start fights so I can break them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lean on Me.
Lean on Me. That's when Richard Dreyfuss told the story. Well, that's when you said,
like, I'm like, damn, Richard Dreyfuss narrated another movie? Because he did Stand By... Oh, wait, that sounds a lot like Lean on movie. Stand By Me, also a good movie. The Rock, also a good movie.
Who's the lead in Lean on Me? Is that Morgan Freeman?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. Look it up. Ben, this is where we lean
Yes.
on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Morgan Freeman?
Yes,
Okay.
Morgan Freeman.
Okay, there you go. Lean on Ben. All right, let's get to the 888, the 8 stories. Get your day going, the Ocho. You're listening to KILT and KILT HD2, an Odyssey station.
One.
Texans, Des King is back in the house. If you went to sleep last night going, you know what would be awesome? Des King back on the Houston Texans. This season has been amazing. They're winning these last-second games. We have one of the best quarterbacks in football. We have one of the best head coaches in football. The only thing that could make this better would be a cherry on top of the sundae. Des King back in the building. Well, you got your wish when you woke up this morning, kind sir.
I do think that Des King...
Signed to the practice squad.
Des King's a dude who can cover, but also, remember last year, usually in any given game, either Steven Nelson or Des King would have the hardest hit of the game, which is nice, except that you don't necessarily want it to be that way. You'd prefer that the best hits in the run game don't come from a defensive back, much less a corner, every single damn game.
Right.
But that's what the defense was like last year. So this year...
now they swarm.
Now they swarm.
Yep.
And Des King, well, he'll get a chance to get hits because usually the first 5 guys miss.
Yeah.
Texans still amongst the league leaders in missed tackles.
Missed tackles, yeah. Yep. So Des King back. He's on the practice squad, as you pointed out, Seth. Probably a function, and this may be an indicator about the linebacker position as much as anything.
Yeah, they had to play a good chunk of linebacker. They didn't basically replace their injured linebackers with anybody. They just said, all right, you know what? We like Christian Harris. We like Blake Cashman. And we'll have Tavier Thomas play Will linebacker when we need base out here. But they probably want more depth in the secondary for when they have to do that.
I may be putting you on the spot. How did he do, Tavier Thomas, playing linebacker?
He's a good dude, man.
Okay.
There's a reason that. Well, no, I mean he's not. He's a cornerback.
No, I know.
You know?
I'm not saying there's a sliding scale.
Right.
I'm not asking him to be.
He did as well as he could be expected to do. I think there are times where he got swallowed up because he's just he's not a linebacker.
Right.
You know?
No, they're not moving him to linebacker or anything.
Right.
For a slot corner.
Right. Yeah, because he was playing like Will linebacker in a base down.
Right.
Like it wasn't like sometimes how it'll be kind of like a linebacker. So, I thought he did as well as you can expect him to do. It's not ideal. It's one of the reasons the Texans had extra issues versus the run the other day, but it was also like Blake Cashman made up for a lot of it too. He's just all over the place.
Yep.
19
tackles.
It helps in pass protect. Like it helps in what are the tight ends up doing in that game versus the Texans?
Trey McBride had a couple plays, but nothing big.
Trey McBride was nothing like he had been the week before. So I think just in general, especially if you're in zone coverage and everything, he had an element of coverage to the linebacking.
All right, story number 2. The Rockets, they lose last night to the Golden State Warriors, 121-116. So the Rockets finished this 3-game road trip to California 0-3. They went into it with a 6-game winning streak. They walk out of it with a 3-game losing streak. Stage on with the Rockets is they're not competing for an NBA title this year, so I'm looking a lot like the Texans, Seth, coming into the season. Tiny little signs of progress, and the sign of progress here is that they were competitive and right there at the end in all 3 of these games against the Clippers, Lakers, and Warriors in California.
They were within 7 points in the fourth quarter. Şengün had a very, very productive night. And, yes, I think that if you look at the Warriors right now and where they are, they're doing that thing where in the first half of the season they don't look like themselves. They had lost 6 in a row, 5. They'd lost 5 at home. So they
Draymond's choking people, getting suspended.
Yeah. That's right, yeah. So they had their backs to the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it's not like it was a must win or anything. But I do think that if anything, the Rockets have gotten to the point now where any one of these last 3 games, I think actually would have been a cause for celebration if it happened in week 1 of this season. Like the expectations have changed to a staggering degree. Where now you're figuring out, all right, just where are they? Are they going to be an average NBA team which was awesome for where they've been and what you would have expected, and with this young core? Are they going to be like a true and genuine Cinderella? Nobody could predict right this moment.
3.
Kareem Jackson suspended again. He was suspended 4 games earlier this year, appealed it, got it reduced to 2. And now the NFL, I wonder who heard his appeal, if it was Derek Brooks or James Thrash. Like, whoever heard his appeal has to be so disappointed that he went and got suspended for 4 games again. That feels like one of those things where you have
Recidivism.
like a young man. I'm going to reduce your suspension from 4 games to 2 games if you promise that you'll never, ever, ever do this again. And Kareem Jackson fingers crossed behind his back, said, "Sure, Judge, I'll never spear anybody with my helmet ever again." And next thing you know, there's Kareem getting walked into the NFL suspension facility, all cuffed, and the judge walks past him like, you told me you weren't going to do this.
That's where
You told me, and now you're suspended for 4 games again.
This guy comes across my
Josh
social
Dobbs.
media feeds at times. It's this judge in New Hampshire that's like this lovable old guy, and he's
really?
very lenient in a lot of ways. Ben, have you seen this guy? He's very, very likable. He's like the opposite of Judge Judy, whatever she is. And but he lets people off the hook a lot. And I just feel like at some point, one of these people is going to come back. And now they're relatively trivial crimes, but you know how that works. It's like, they had this guy on a traffic arrest. He should have gone to jail for 30 days.
Killed
and in the
3 people.
meantime, And I'm just waiting for that guy's day to come. I feel bad for him.
The judge?
But it's coming. Yeah. So that's
Kareem Jackson.
Yeah, I think that I'm surprised at Kareem Jackson. I feel like he's just so stubbornly set in his ways at this point, and because he's at the age where he is, that A, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. B, I think his violence, his hard hits are his calling card. And, you know, as the athleticism starts to wane a little bit, he probably feels a little bit stuck in a bind of like, all right, well, I still need my calling card.
Right. Well, yeah, and there aren't many jobs out there that pay what Kareem Jackson is getting paid to play football. Like, it's, you know, it's a lot of it's about survival.
It's like if you're a hangman electric chair, you're like, great, man.
Technology.
Yeah, I'd have to move countries.
Computer
We've got
took
this
my
much
place.
more humane thing where they strap people in and fry them for 45 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah. Seriously, somebody sold people on that back in the day. Here's a better way to do it.
Right. Let's fry them. Right.
And they,
story number 4.
Seriously, if you get hanged right, your neck snaps, you know?
Right.
I feel like even if the electric chair is done right, that first moment, like when you grab an electric fence,
dude,
that is the worst. I can grab an electric fence, Sean, and like that's the worst. It's the worst like 1 second of your life.
And we know from the Green Mile, if you get a nefarious officer who doesn't wet the sponge, you fry like a slice of bacon. Remember that?
I would pre-wet my own scalp before I went in.
I would
I'd
too.
Like spit.
Yes, DIY. A DIY electrocution.
Lethal injection's where it's at.
Yeah, or
it's
gas.
Just getting tougher to. No, screw gas. Are you kidding me? I don't know about the gas, man. That sounds rough. I don't know.
All right, story number 4.
Lethal injection.
Yeah, that's where it's at. All right, Monday Night Football.
You know how the Heaven's Gate people did it?
How?
Okay. They put bags over their heads with rubber bands around the bags over their neck, and then they took like a cocktail of like heavy sedatives and everything, and then just sat there with their thumbs underneath the mask to basically like and try to try to stay awake until basically they passed out, and then their thumbs collapsed.
And
that doesn't sound bad, actually.
4.
Monday Night Football. The Chiefs were winning until they were losing. They were up 17-7 in the
John, they're riding a comet around the universe right now. You think, that part sounds awesome. like you go from a cellophane bag to like all of a sudden you're going, yeah, I'm on the hell, Bob. Yeah.
Fair enough. 21-17, the Eagles came back to beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football last night. What this means for the Houston Texans, there are no teams in the AFC anymore that have fewer than 3 losses. The Texans are within 1 loss of the tippy top of the AFC right now. Now, granted, there are 5 teams with 3 losses.
Yeah.
And the Texans have 4 losses. But boy, this is fun in November. Like the Chiefs and the Ravens, they're like within shouting distance.
This is
right
the
now.
incredibly.
They can hear us right now.
This is the vast middle class that multitudes of politicians on both sides of the aisle have promised us forever.
Yes.
You got a couple rich fat cats up there at the top, but the rest of us, we're all sitting
The progressive tax got the
yes.
Chiefs.
And now it's time to exploit the system.
Yes.
And vault ourselves up somehow, okay?
By beating up a bunch of horrible quarterbacks for the last 7 games of the year. Yes, that is what Americana is all
I
about.
hope Will Levis doesn't get benched before the Titans
I
games.
do too. We'll talk about that. But Chiefs, how scary are the Chiefs right now?
They should be scary because they're a complete football team, but they have that classic. Like if you look at the game last night, all right. they still got Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes could have thrown for, if it weren't for dropped passes. Do you have the stats in front of you?
I don't.
Okay, I'm guessing he could have thrown for like 450 yards last night if so many passes hadn't been dropped. And it was in the rain, yes, but it wasn't like they were really, really difficult catches that were dropped.
Dude, literally the picture on ESPN.com, the cover picture is Marquez Valdez-Scantling with his arms flailing and a ball next to his helmet.
That was laid down right out in front of him. He could have caught that easily. I don't think the rain had much to do with it, or shouldn't have at least. And they still have a very, very good defense. So they should still be one of the three scariest teams in the league.
Mahomes was 24 of 43 for 177.
Oh my gosh!
Mahomes averaged 4.1 yards per attempt last night. Yikes.
There were a few drops on deeper stuff. And then Travis Kelce. What happens when you catch a ball and then have it poked out like Travis Kelce did last night? That wasn't a long reception.
I didn't see it, but people said Kelce dropped the ball last night.
It got poked right out of his hand.
Yeah.
He had one fumble that got poked right out, too.
Oh, it was a fumble. That's right. It wasn't a drop. It was a fumble. Yeah, that's right.
5.
Apple is working on a 10-part series about the Patriots dynasty. The 30-second trailer just dropped this past weekend. We'll have to ask Nick next time he comes on with us if he's in this thing.
Are they working on it, or they're releasing it soon?
They're releasing it February 16th. I don't think it's. I don't. They probably have all They probably have everything.
Yeah.
Editing now.
Okay. I didn't know. It's not something that's going to come out like 2 years from now.
No. February 16th. 2024 is the drop
When's the
date.
Super Bowl this year?
I believe it's like February 15th, 2024,
so it's right
something
after
like that.
Oh, you still need your fix.
Yeah.
We know what everybody wants is more Patriots.
We know you missed having the Patriots in this Super Bowl.
Right.
So here's a 10-part documentary on all their other Super Bowls.
It's been 20 years of nonstop Patriots
America's
action.
darling.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I bet that might be like the day that Belichick gets fired, too. I wonder if Apple already knows. I bet they do.
Or if they're rooting for it.
It would make sense. In my conspiratorial mind, Apple already knows, and that's why they've scheduled it for them. Bob Kraft's getting a cut.
I like it.
What if they look at Bob Kraft, because Bob Kraft is always, they've got this media department that they actually are pretty aggressive with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bob Kraft tries to turn the firing of Belichick into some kind of a LeBron type thing.
They interviewed Bob Kraft at that Germany game. I can't listen to him talk for more than 30 seconds.
This is like 45 words
Yeah,
a minute.
it's great to be over in Germany, and we intend to have many more games. My God, if you don't finish this sentence, it's going to be the 2024 season is going to be here already. He talks so slow.
6.
All right, on to Charissa Thompson, a fast talker. Talked a little too fast for her own good.
Yeah, a little slick talker, isn't she?
She got into a little trouble saying that she would make up sideline reports coming out of halftime. She couldn't catch up with the coach. The coach was dodging her, so she would go on.
Work is hard.
She would go on Fox and say things like, Dan Campbell need to get off the field on third down, and they need to prevent so many big plays.
She claimed
got a lot of heat for this.
She claimed that she just misspoke, and that wasn't how it was. Even though Ben had found other audio of her saying the same thing, where it sure did sound like she was saying that she was putting words in the coach's mouth.
Twice she did it. Yeah, you can't get past Ben Gary. Ben Gary's going to go find that audio. Yeah, her apology sucked. I thought. Let's address the elephant in the room. I have a responsibility to myself and my employers to clarify what is being reported. And she said that she would make up reports, and then goes on to say that she would never lie about anything. She used the wrong words when she was on the podcast.
Yeah, and please produce this elephant you're talking about. False report much?
The one everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
The juiciest part of the article, the follow-up article by Richard Deitch of The Athletic, was that there was a disclaimer at the top of the article that said that apparently there was an excerpt that Richard Deitch, who is the media reporter for The Athletic, so anything happens in media, he's on it. Apparently there was an excerpt in the original version of the article, like the follow-up article analyzing this, where The Athletic felt the need to take it out because it outlined a personal interaction that Richard Deitch had with Charissa Thompson, and it got edited out because it felt like it was inappropriate to have in the article. I have not yet been able to find out what that personal interaction was.
Did they have a romantic interlude?
I don't know. Now, I can tell you right now,
Richard
Deitch.
Listen, she's making a lot of claims about the size of my man. This woman cannot be trusted.
See?
She cannot be trusted.
I need to know what that is.
What is it?
7.
I don't know. I kept looking up all weekend. See if anybody found it, or if anybody wants just to make up what it was. Text in 713-572.
Such a tease, The Athletic.
Did you see any of the chitter chatter on Twitter this week about the Las Vegas Grand Prix and how it was torpedoing business on the Strip?
There was torpedoing business, and then wasn't it? It was postponed because there was a loose manhole cover or something.
Well, I know that there's a car that ran over a loose manhole cover during one of the practice sessions.
Yeah, sack up, Formula One. They're like, oh, my high-tech vehicle can't handle a manhole cover.
Apparently, it depending on who you talk to, and I saw a lot of.
It sounds like it would be a big deal.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like if you went to Vegas, but you weren't going to Vegas for the Grand Prix, this was a disastrous weekend to be in Vegas because the Grand Prix is literally running through the streets of the Strip.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like Uber drivers and service workers, like in restaurants. Like the restaurants are empty, other than the tippy top high-end
service workers. Yes,
service workers. Other services as well. Yeah. My guess is those service workers you're winking
People
about
find
are
a
doing
way.
just fine. Yeah. But yeah, apparently this is supposed to be like a huge boon to Las Vegas's economy.
Yeah.
Where they were charging triple for the hotel rooms at the beginning of this thing, and then by the time the race rolled around this weekend, you could get hotel rooms for like $30.
Oh, really?
It was really bad. Yeah, yeah. So it was wild. Like the pictures of the Strip in Vegas looked like COVID. It was crazy.
What? I wonder if they decided where the baseball stadium.
It's near the Strip.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's. I when I was out there in May, there was a Uber driver that kind of pointed out where they thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. There were still a lot of moving parts at the time.
I've tried to convince Brandy that we should retire to Vegas at times because neither of us gamble. So like, if you don't gamble, it's one of the best, like, most bang for your buck entertainment dollars, and not to mention buffets all over the place.
Buffets, shows, no state income tax. I believe.
Yeah.
Warm weather.
Yeah, warm weather. That's one thing I was jealous of my dad in his later years was how cold he was all the time.
Yeah,
because it was. You save so much money in the summer on air conditioning. Yeah,
it's true. 8. Last one. Apparently, U of H is offering a Taylor Swift entrepreneurial class. Their entrepreneurship program over at U of H is offering a Taylor Swift entrepreneurial class where they go through all the various things that Taylor Swift has done to promote the Taylor Swift brand.
Yeah,
up to and including friendship bracelets.
She's really. No, she's a very good business person.
Yeah.
If people are on the stream watching or saw me put my hand over my head, it wasn't me like scoffing at Taylor Swift's business ability. It was me remembering a dream that I had last night and an entire segment I had built out over a naughty tweet that Taylor Swift had last night about a romantic interlude with Travis Kelce. I woke up this morning with an entire segment plotted out over this scandalous tweet that I dreamt about, where she had basically said that, like, hey, Travis and I just finished doing something, and he's incredible. It never happened. I would have forgot that dream forever, except that you just brought up this little tidbit here.
Brought it back.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking what she was tweeting.
Yeah,
and it was awesome for Travis Kelce. My take on it was this. Remember Pete Thompson went out with, what's-her-face there?
Pete Davidson went out with Kim Kardashian.
Went out with Kim
and Ariana Grande.
So anyway, no, seriously, what's his name went out with Ariana Grande?
Yep, Pete Davidson.
Yep. And
Kim Kardashian.
She said something about his manhood that he claims was like exaggerated, but now it's like the worst thing anybody could have ever done to him because now women are constantly disappointed when they see the actual deal.
Yeah.
I feel like with
Travis, get your foot in the door, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. With Travis Kelce, I feel like that would actually be a pretty that's a compliment that even if they ever broke up, like that's some really good advertising word of mouth for him for the rest of his life.
It's his pinned tweet. That's what you do. You pin that
forever, even after they broke
tweet.
up. Yeah.
When Taylor Swift wakes or gets out of relations with you and then immediately tweets about how amazing it was, pin tweet.
So, I woke up. It's weird, and then it left me. I guess for like 2 minutes, that was in my mind. That was something that had actually happened.
You got to write it down right away. You got to have a notepad.
No, but it was fictitious. It didn't actually happen.
No, I know, but it would have been a funny story to bring up on the air, like you just did. Oh. Would you take the entrepreneurship class, the Taylor Swift entrepreneurship class?
It's tough. It's kind of like, this is always the issue I had both with myself and other football players. There's times where you have to, I would tell guys like, hey, listen, at the end of the day, remember, you did not get this money through your business savvy. So have a little bit of humility. Like sometimes it's tempting when you've got all this money to think like, I am one hell of a business. Just look at my suits. Look at my business suits.
I'm amazing.
in crush class in this business. Just remember, like it's the business model was being really, really good at something. I saw a billionaire talk about this one recently. And he was kind of like making fun of a lot of the self-help culture and everything, or at least the all these people on YouTube that are tutoring you on how to achieve your dreams and everything.
Right.
They're like, listen, this is what you do. Get really, really, really good at something and then learn how to leverage it as best as possible.
Yes.
And how to sell the most of it or whatever. Just first and foremost, get really, really, really good at something.
Yeah.
So that's
really good
advice.
advice.
My advice. Yeah. Don't overthink this. Go get really, really, really good at something.
Good job, Seth.
Yes.
All right, kids. Up next, anonymous player survey in the NFL. Best player, biggest trash talker, most annoying fans. Do the Texans show up anywhere on the radar here? We will have that for you next.